Trump is indicted for a third time by special counsel Jack Smith, and this time it's so bad, it almost seems like a joke. And the timing of these indictments are too coincidental to ignore. We'll get into all the details on this August 3rd edition of The Breakdown. Before we get started, if you haven't already and you find this video informative, consider subscribing to the channel below. Be sure to leave us a like so that YouTube is more likely to show this video to Democrats. They really need it. Well, this morning I saw an email in my box from Banana Republic. My first thought was that it must be from the federal government. Although after Tuesday's announcement of 4 more indictments of former President Trump by Biden attack dog Jack Smith, I think we're beyond bananas. We're now living in a spaghetti republic where partisan prosecutors just throw anything they can right toward Trump. Maybe kind of like hurling a bowl of spaghetti against the wall to see if any of it sticks. Trump faces 4 counts: conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. All of these are based on his challenging of the 2020 election and his statements about it being rigged. The indictments actually say that he created widespread mistrust in his attempt to overturn the legitimate results of the 2020 election. Since the Democrats are trying to railroad Trump into prison for 500 years because he challenged an election, let's help out the federal prosecutors by providing them with the Democrat politicians who need to be indicted because they denied the results of fair elections, creating widespread public mistrust in the process and attempting to overturn free and fair elections.
He's an illegitimate president in my mind.
Folks, look, I absolutely agree.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president-elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
You said you believe that Russia's interference altered the outcome of the election.
I do. We have a president who, if in fact it is proven, has been assisted by the Russians and may in fact not be a legitimate president.
Well, we cut that video short, but there's at least 10 more minutes of that. You can find the full video in the description below. And here's former Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta urging Trump electors in 2016 to betray their state's voters and vote for Hillary, overturning the results of a free and fair election.
To happen, though, 37 Republican electors must switch their votes, a scenario seen as highly unlikely.
The question is whether there are 37 Republican electors who think that either there are open questions or that Donald Trump, based on everything we know about him, is really unfit to be president of the United States.
I've said on many occasions, you don't need to believe any of the things people are being sued over, like hacked voting machines, just to suspect that this election wasn't entirely kosher. And this is actually important because all of those charges are based on Smith knowing Trump's state of mind and assuring us that he was deliberately attempting to overturn an election that he knew for certain he lost fair and square. I don't believe that Trump believes he lost fair and square, even now. Why was he continuing to back investigations of voter fraud even as he was making the statements that he's charged over? Maybe Smith assumes that Donald Trump should have taken the word of the experts around him that there was no voter fraud. Would those be the type of government experts who said that he and his staff were colluding with Russia while they used lies and fabricated evidence to get bogus warrants, the warrants to investigate those charges? Or would it be the experts who assured us that Hunter's laptop was Russian disinformation, or that COVID sprang out of a bowl of bat soup, that you couldn't catch or spread it if you wore a mask and got the jab, or that we could just stop it by shutting down the economy and closing churches, but we didn't have to close liquor stores. Yeah, I wonder why Trump didn't trust the government experts when they told him there was no voter fraud. Many legal experts are commenting not only on the unprecedented and outrageous nature of the charges, but on the weakness of Smith's case and how he had to stretch laws to the breaking point. One indicator of that, and a sure sign that he's a partisan hack and not a dispassionate prosecutor, is that Smith held a press conference in which he gave the equivalent of a podium-pounding political speech blaming Donald Trump for inciting the January 6th riot. Then he didn't charge him with incitement because he knows there is zero evidence to support that.
The attack on our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021 was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election.
Law professor Jonathan Turley was struck by how weak the case is, saying that if he went through the indictments with a red pen and crossed out everything protected by the First Amendment, it would reduce much of it to a haiku. The indictments also named 5 alleged co-conspirators. Rudy Giuliani is included among them. Many are pointing out the suspicious timing of the indictments. This is now the 3rd time indictments of Trump have been announced within one day of major negative revelations about Joe Biden that needed to be pushed out of the headlines. You know what they say? Once is an accident, twice a coincidence, 3 times a pattern. The politicization of the legal system has become glaringly obvious, which may be why each new indictment just boosts Trump's poll numbers. But make no mistake, as absurd as these charges might be, in the incredibly biased atmosphere of the Biden DOJ and the District of Columbia and New York City courtrooms, Trump is in real danger. If convicted of all the charges that Smith has thrown at him, he could be sentenced to 500 years. That's right, 500 years in prison. If you think a D.C. court wouldn't sentence people who did nothing wrong to prison over January 6th, then I've got some oceanfront property in Arkansas to try to sell you. There's even an opening for a death penalty charge, although let's hope that that's a bridge too far even for these jackals. Trump also had exceptionally bad luck in drawing a judge for these latest charges. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan has been the harshest in D.C. on January 6 defendants. In only about 10% of these cases did other judges level more punishment than the prosecutors asked for. Chutkan did it in almost 1/3 of her cases. And she's both unpredictable and capricious. In one case involving a couple, the DOJ requested home confinement as part of a probationary period and no jail time. She sent both of them to jail, one for 20 days and the other for 13. This is what Donald Trump and his attorneys are going to be dealing with. Hopefully, Trump's attorneys can expedite the process of appeal and get these charges thrown out, but that would require the Supreme Court to step in and not follow its usual glacial pace, which is unlikely. Otherwise, if Smith gets his wish, this will all be taking place during the presidential primary campaigns. That's going to create maximum election interference, which I suspect is the entire point. It certainly isn't the fair and impartial application of federal law. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel, clicking the notification bell below, and leaving a like on the video. Be sure to tune in to the Live with Mike live stream tomorrow. That's at 1:30 Central. We'll be covering more of the news of the week, and I'll answer questions that you send in. And if you want more of my news analysis and commentary, go ahead, do it right now and sign up for my newsletter at MikeHuckabee.com. It's totally free. That's going to do it for this edition of The Breakdown. I'm Mike Huckabee.